G'day guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Tim, and on today's episode we're taking a bullish look at Bitcoin. Well, kind of bullish. There's a little bit of bearish thrown in there as well, but I will admit this is this is an extremely strong bullish wave that we've had here, and it's very reminiscent of what we saw over here at this earlier in the bull cycle. Okay, so it's very, very similar. Now, what I like to do today in today's video is just point out a couple of key trend lines I've noticed that are bullish, but I just want to highlight a couple things to keep an eye on just to keep everyone grounded. Okay, so without any further ado, let's have a look and get stuck in. Okay, so what I've done here is I've put a couple of key trend lines, one from this point here right through, and you can see we've found support on this trend line a couple of times, this ascending trend line right here, and there's another one right here, which was basically the neckline of the head and shoulders that we saw, this top head and shoulder pattern at the very, very top. And you can see that we also found resistance at that point here at about the 53K mark. And now we're starting to find some sort of support on top of this trend line. And this pattern that we're seeing play out over here with inside this channel looks very similar to what we saw over here. You can see we bounced up, we came down to the bottom of the channel, and then we shot right to the top of the channel. So very similar to what we've done now, although in this case we actually came right to the top of the channel, down, and now we've bounced right up here like that. So what I thought I might do is just take this section over here of Bitcoin and lay it over here to see what it would look like if we follow a similar pattern again. Okay, so you can see I grabbed this section here, which is basically this part of the chart. Now, if I overlay it here, it gives us a bit of an idea of what might happen. This is all speculation, of course. So what this shows is if we follow a similar pattern and we find support on this trend line, it could look something like this, which would bring us up to around that 74K mark, 75K mark. So that's a possibility. It's very unlikely that we'll copy the exact same pattern again, but given we found support on this trend line in the past, maybe we find support on it again and do a similar pattern. Now, you'll notice also we are a fair way from these moving averages, and you can see on the way up, this orange line here, which is the 50-day moving average, we did find support on this all the way up. We kind of just bounce off it. And right now it's down there at about 47K. So it should creep up slowly, but we might find support like this. So it might go up again and then find support, and then we might go up again and do something like that. We'll have to see how it plays out. And finally, let's have a look here at the Bitcoin dominance. Now, this is extremely interesting. So what I've got on here is this is the 2017-2018 cycle right over here. You can see this big W shape. And right here is the 2021 cycle. Now, isn't it similar how you can see that Bitcoin dominance starts off very high? And if I turn this on, we can see this is where we peaked in December 2017, right up here. And this is where we peaked on the April 14 in 2021. So quite high. We're a bit higher in 2017 at about 60%, and here about 55%. So, changed by about 5%. Then following that big crash that we had in May, the Bitcoin dominance went back up again, and then we came back down for another altcoin season, very, very similar to what happened here in 2018. And now we are finding our way back, and we're at about the 45% Bitcoin dominance mark, which is very similar to over here. Now, if we have a look in 2018, when Bitcoin was at 45%, I'll just zoom this out a little bit. It was right about here. This was actually the bottom of the dead cat bounce. So Bitcoin got up to about 46%. So it's very, very interesting that we're following a very similar pattern with the dominance compared to 2018. But in 2021, the price has gone up. It's done the exact opposite of what happened in 2018. And I think that's just fascinating. So taking one last look at the daily Bitcoin chart here. Now, I'm looking at this particular section here for inspiration of what may happen next. Now, if we do continue to find support above this trend line, perhaps we do shoot up, just like we did back here. But then it's very likely that we come back and we start testing these moving averages, which will start to move up, you'd think. Something like that. So it's very likely that we come back and start testing them on this trend line again. But we'll have to see if we hold this particular trend line or whether we fall back into it and sink further down. So there's a bit of water to go under the bridge before that occurs. We'll have to keep a close eye. Oh, I forgot to say a few bearish things in this video, so I'll just quickly finish off. Now, what I've got here on the screen right now is the Google Trends worldwide for the past 12 months. We're looking at Bitcoin in blue, Ethereum in red, Solana in yellow, and Cardano in green. And as you can see right here, in the middle of the year when we had those peaks around April or so, April, May, in fact, that's May 16 there, that's when everything was peaking. And since then, it hasn't been quite as high. So that's very interesting. That's the web search. We go to, say, YouTube search. It looks very similar. That's where the peaks have been, and it's kind of died off. A little bit of interest here. This does give a bit of credibility to the dead cat bounce, dare I say it, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Also, in terms of institutional holdings, we're looking at the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Again, nothing's changed on this chart. It's still showing that they essentially stopped buying around February 2021, and if anything, it's gone down slightly. That's Bitcoin. If I select Ethereum, looks the same. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. We could be getting a second wind out of Bitcoin. The fact that the price is so bullish is a very strong argument, but there are a few bearish signs still looming. We'll have to see how it plays out in the coming weeks. I'm excited either way. I hope you enjoyed that video. And until next time, I'm Tim, and cheers.